Welcome back to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith. I apologize if you're tuning in for more Super Dungeon Explorer. I have to delay you a little bit longer. Luke, who is getting better from his cold, is actually getting worse again, and Andrea has to go away on a band trip, so she's going to be away for a couple of days. So with my co-host missing, left me scrambling to think about what I could do for an episode, because I didn't want to leave you guys more than 3 or 4 days between episodes, and I had an idea. As I mentioned in a previous episode, we have a perk level on our Indiegogo fundraiser, which the time of this episode airing is probably going to be wrapping up within about 24 hours from this being posted. The Decider perk level allows people to vote on what game we do next. Now, we won't be able to do this every time we're going to do a new game, because some games I'll want to present to you. Other times we may have a publisher who supports us and will be able to get their game in our series ahead of others. But I think after Super Dungeon Explorer would be a great time to try out the Decider's perk. And I'd like to, if possible, do that a couple of different times during the year if we can keep ourselves on the air that long. So what I'm going to do is show you guys the games in my collection that I would be willing to do a series on. And then I'll be sending out an email after the fundraiser is over to all of the people who have donated at the Decider perk level. Now, if you've donated at a higher level, don't worry. You're also included in those lower levels as well. So you should be getting an email from me soon after the fundraiser ends. And you'll have seen in this video the different games that I have available, and you'll be able to write me back and let me know which one you want to play. And whichever one gets the most submissions back, that's the one that we'll play next. I'm going to give you a very quick, like 10 to 15 second rundown each game so you have some idea of what kind of game it is. But first, there's just a couple of things I wanted to mention. In the last unboxing episode, I talked about the possibility of doing shorter format playthroughs of games where I would teach the game in an episode and then just show you 1 or 2 turns of the game to give you a feel of how it works. And I got some feedback from people concerned that I was talking about replacing the format of my show, and I want to reassure you that's not what I intend at all. And I probably should have clarified it better. It doesn't seem like it now, but I have these ambitions that I'll be able to do more than one playthrough at a time. So we'll always have a full playthrough going on, and then on the side maybe be doing something that's a shorter format if it's a game that just doesn't suit the format of our series well, but is one that I would like to be able to show you and maybe help you make a decision about whether or not it would be good for you. But I want to assure you the long format playthroughs are what I personally enjoy the most as well. And I'm having a great time with Super Dungeon Explorer, and I wouldn't want to trade that in just so I could pack in more games into our series. So I just wanted to reassure you about that. The last thing I wanted to mention was we got a video submission from Neko FLCL in response to our last episode of Super Dungeon Explorer. It was episode 4. Now, I didn't realize that video was waiting there for me to approve it, so I just approved it today. So go back, check that out if you want to, and see if that's a move that you would like to do for your turn. And I also just want to encourage you, if you have the interest and the capacity to send us video responses like that, please consider doing it. We like all the different kinds of interaction that you send us, and that's another exciting way to do it. If you don't have the game, don't worry about it. You could draw a little illustration or just talk us through what you want to do. And if that suggestion gets picked, then we'll try in some way to incorporate your video into our video. Just try to keep it short. It'll make it a little bit easier for us to work with. Oh, and if you could, just somewhere in your video mention that you're giving us permission to use your video in our video. I don't want to end up in some kind of bizarro YouTube legal entanglement over usage rights. Okay, let's get on to the games. Okay, so my goal here is to explain each of these games in less than 15 seconds. Ready? All right, let's go. So the first one is Carcassonne. This is a tile-laying game. You lay tiles down the board. You have little meeple characters that you place on the tiles to claim and build roads and cities and farms, and you try to get the most points. Very popular game. It's the very first Euro game that I ever played. All right, the next one is Elder Sign. This is a game you can play by yourself or with other people. It's cooperative. It's set in the Arkham Horror universe, and it's a dice game primarily. You roll dice kind of in a Yahtzee style to complete missions and to try to fend off evil monsters. Then we have Survive, Escape from Atlantis. This is a game where there is an island in the middle of the board and it is slowly eroding because of volcanic eruptions, and you are trying to save your people and get them to the safe islands on the other sides of the map. Unfortunately, your opponents are trying to throw sharks and sea monsters and whales at you to sink your boats and eat your people. Lots of nasty fun. All right, next is Memoir 44. This is actually a game we were going to do on the series, and it got bumped by Dungeon Run, I think. Anyway, this game is for 2 players. It takes place on a map that you can then customize with different hex tiles, and you have a bunch of miniature tanks and soldiers and barricades and other things like that, as well as special tokens for bunkers and other kinds of landscapes. There's several different scenarios. You play with cards that help you decide what you can do on your turn. Anyway, war game, but light war game, not a heavy war game. Next we have Junta, Viva el Presidente. In this game, you and your friends are taking on the roles of mini dictators. One of you is trying to be the Presidente, controlling things. You hand out promises to the different players to try to keep them from attacking you. Unfortunately, they want to attack you because they want to be the president. So it's a lot of backstabbing and wheeling and dealing. And the game comes with a pair of sunglasses for the president to wear while he or she is the president. All right, next we have Blood Bowl Team Manager, the card game. This is kind of a mini deck building, but not really, game where you are the manager of a fantasy football team. Not fantasy like the traditional fantasy, but actual fantasy characters. That's right, elves and ogres fighting each other over football games. But you're the manager, so you're not really playing individual games as much as showing the highlights from games and trying to garner the most fans. Next up, we have Claustrophobia. This is also a game for 2 players. It takes place kind of like it is a dungeon delver type of game, and one of you is playing the baddies and the monsters, and the other one's playing the heroes, and you're each trying to beat the other. It's a scenario-driven game. Each player has their own scenario they're trying to accomplish to win. Next, we have Lords of Waterdeep. This is a relatively new game, and certainly one that's been very popular online. It's a worker placement game. It's very much a Euro-styled game. So if you're thinking, well, it's got Dungeons and Dragons written on it, so it must be full of all kinds of fancy pieces and 20-sided dice. No, there is actually no dice in this. There's a bunch of wooden cubes and cards. But it's a worker placement game where you are trying to complete quests by collecting certain resources in the game and get the most points. Next up, we have Dust Tactics. I actually hesitated putting this in here because I have actually not played through this game at all. I've read through the rules and I haven't played through it, but I thought, hey, this is the Deciders playthrough. I'll make a small exception and put this in here. And if there's enough interest, maybe it's something I would consider doing for the series. Well, if this gets the most votes, I will do it. But normally my philosophy is to only play games in my series that I am very comfortable with and that I personally enjoy on at least some level. So this one's, maybe I do enjoy it, maybe I don't. Who knows? Next we have Tales of the Arabian Nights. This game is a story-driven game. It actually, it's like a choose-your-own-adventure. It comes with a big, thick book, and depending on where you travel to or what you choose to do or what you interact with, you have to flip through the book and find out what happens to you. This is a game that I would really only play with 2 people. I've played it before, and you can definitely play with more people. I'm not saying it's not a good game with more people, but I personally enjoy it more as a 2-player game. So if I was playing this game, that's how I would do it. And next up, we have Pandemic. This is a fully cooperative game. I'm not sure if I mentioned that about Elder Sign. Elder Sign is a fully cooperative game as well, by the way. But this is a fully cooperative game where you are taking on the role of health specialist trying to eradicate diseases that are threatening to take over the world. So that's what that game is. And we also have Confusion. Confusion is a 2-player game where players are, it's an abstract game where players are pretending to be spies or maybe heads of spy organizations. Yeah, where you're having your spies move around the board. You're trying to deduce how your own pieces move because you don't know how they move at the beginning of the game. And based on the feedback of your opponent, you will start to learn how your pieces move. So you can try to capture the briefcase that's on the board and get it to the side of the board that you need to win the game. We also have this game, Space Hulk. Now, this is a game that I promised you guys I would do because I got enough interest from people to do it. So if you don't vote for this game, don't worry, it will happen. But I just thought I would give you guys the option of having it happen sooner because I really don't know when I'm going to get around to this one because I'm thinking maybe more towards the summer, but who knows what will happen between now and then. So I thought I'd give you guys just the chance to vote for that one. And that's it. That's what I've got as options. Hopefully that gives you guys something to think about. And as I said, I'm going to send out an email after the fundraiser is over. So if you want to get in on the voting, there's still time for you to donate and get to the Decider perk level if that's what you want to do. Or you can just sit back and enjoy what other people pick and watch along. There's no problem with that, of course. Well, that's it for now. In the next episode, hopefully we'll be continuing our Super Dungeon Explorer playthrough. And while Andrew's away, if Luke can get healthy enough, maybe I'll bring him down and he can control both of the heroes like Andrew's been doing. And we can catch him up a little bit since he's had to miss a couple of the episodes. Until then, thanks again for watching.